Imagine this: you're sitting across from her, maybe in a cafe, maybe on your couch, maybe walking side by side in the evening. She's smiling, nodding, making conversation, but something feels off. She hasn't said no, but her energy isn't saying yes either. You leave the moment confused, replaying it in your head later, wondering if you imagined the distance, wondering if you're being paranoid. This is where most men fall into the trap, because women rarely reject you with a flat no. Instead, they let silence, vagueness, and half commitments do the work. And if you're not trained to see it, you'll keep investing in a dead end, all while she benefits from your attention, your time, your validation. The truth is, a woman's no is often wrapped in politeness, in soft words like maybe, we'll see, or I'm just really busy right now. To an untrained man, those sound like opportunities, reasons to keep trying, to prove himself, to double down. But to her, they are exit doors, subtle signals that you're not the priority. Have you noticed how her "I'll let you know" almost never turns into actual plans? Or how her replies come late, short, without effort? That's her way of saying no without risking confrontation. She keeps the door cracked, not because she wants you, but because she doesn't want to look like the villain. And as long as you don't recognize it, you stay in the role of the hopeful fool. Think about the times you've texted a woman and her responses dragged out longer than the message itself. You type 2 sentences. She answers with 1 word. You suggest a plan. She says, "I'll check." You compliment her. She leaves it hanging. These aren't neutral. They are rejection signals disguised as courtesy. The worst mistake you can make is ignoring them and chasing harder. That's when you enter the spiral of overinvestment, pouring attention into someone who has already silently walked away. Here's the psychology behind it. Women, especially in today's dating world, are conditioned to avoid hard confrontation. They fear being labeled cruel or cold, so they create what I call soft no's. It's rejection disguised as busyness, indecision, or vague friendliness. And because you don't hear the word no, your brain interprets it as unfinished business. You think persistence will win her over. But what it actually does is hand her control. She dictates the rhythm, and you play along, draining yourself for a chance that never existed. Now, here's the tactical truth you need to absorb. The way you protect yourself is not by demanding clarity from her, but by demanding clarity from yourself. The cues are always there if you stop romanticizing them. A woman who's genuinely interested will not leave you guessing. She'll make time, not excuses. She'll reach out, not just respond. She'll show eagerness, not just politeness. Anything less than that is already a no. The discipline is in refusing to chase shadows. You don't confront her. You don't beg for answers. You quietly withdraw, reclaim your energy, and redirect it where it's wanted. Picture this in action. You text her, "Let's meet Friday at 7. She replies, "I'll let you know." That's your signal. Not to wait, not to follow up, but to cut the thread. One unanswered maybe is enough. You don't rearrange your life hoping she'll drop a last-minute yes. You don't hover. You continue your plans without her. If she's serious, she'll come back with initiative. If she's not, you've already walked away with your self-respect intact. This is the masculine move: indifference to uncertainty, zero tolerance for vagueness. It feels harsh at first. You'll think you're giving up too early, but ask yourself how many weeks, months, even years have men wasted in these limbos, thinking they were being patient, when in truth they were being strung along. The soft no thrives on your hope. Kill the hope, and you kill the manipulation. Once you can look at a vague response and translate it instantly as rejection, you're free. You stop waiting by the phone. You stop twisting her words. You stop bargaining with yourself. Instead, you operate from reality. She's either in or she's out. And if she can't say yes with her actions, she has already said no with her silence. This is the shift most men never make. They keep thinking that women say no the way men do, directly, clearly, unmistakably. They don't. And because you cling to the literal word, you miss the unspoken message. But once you train your eye, you'll never unsee it again. Every slow reply, every maybe, every excuse becomes as loud as the word itself. And the second you start treating it that way, you regain the upper hand. You stop dancing in her shadow, and you stand in your own light. Have you ever recognized yourself in this exact situation? What happened next? Which one of these soft no's have you fallen for before? And when you look back, what was the real cost of not walking away sooner? Some women will never say no because they don't want to close the door completely. They'd rather keep you orbiting, like a satellite they can pull into their world whenever it suits them. This is what I call the breadcrumb strategy. She gives you just enough attention to keep you hooked, but never enough to satisfy you. One text here, a compliment there, maybe a playful emoji out of nowhere, just enough to reignite your interest. And you fall for it, because part of you remembers the good spark you once had. But what you don't see is the control she's exercising over your emotions. Every crumb she drops is measured, calculated, and designed to keep you hungry. You've probably felt this. Weeks of silence. Then suddenly a late night, "Hey, what are you doing?" And your heart jumps. You think she's coming back, that maybe she's changed her mind, that she finally sees your worth. But no, she's not offering commitment. She's pulling you back just close enough to remind herself she still has you if she wants. It's about ego, not connection. And if you answer every time, you've trained her that you'll always be there no matter how little she gives. That is the essence of a man trapped in someone else's game. Here's the reality you need to face the moment a woman wants you, truly wants you. She doesn't leave you guessing. Her actions align with her words. She invests, initiates, responds quickly, makes plans, and follows through. There's no need to decode. If you're decoding, it's already a bad sign. And yet men waste years in the gray zone because they confuse breadcrumbs for progress. You think, at least she's still talking to me. But you're missing the bigger truth. Her interest is not real. It's conditional. It's about convenience, not desire. The danger of staying in this limbo is that it rewires you. You start to normalize inconsistency. You begin to accept less and less, lowering your standards just to keep her around. Soon, you find yourself chasing validation instead of a relationship. That's not attraction anymore, that's dependency. And dependency is where men lose their strength. It's where they stop being men of choice and become men of hope. The problem is, hope in dating is poison when it blinds you to reality. Hope convinces you to wait for change that's never coming. So how do you fight back? You adopt a new rule. You never invest more than she invests. If she gives 20%, you don't give 80%. You mirror her effort. She texts once a week. You text once a week. She's vague about plans. You stop suggesting plans. You let her show her level, and you respond with equal energy, not more. This does two things. First, it protects your self-respect. Second, it forces her to reveal her true intent. If she was only using you for ego boosts, she'll vanish when you stop feeding her. If she actually has interest, she'll step up when she sees you're not chasing anymore. And here's where indifference becomes your weapon. Most men can't stomach pulling back because they're addicted to her approval. But indifference is the only thing that breaks manipulation. You're not cruel. You're not angry. You're simply detached. You train yourself to stop reacting to crumbs. A random emoji doesn't make you light up. A late reply doesn't shake your frame. You see it for what it is: low effort, low value, and you treat it as such. That's when you regain control, because the man who cannot be swayed by breadcrumbs is the man she cannot control. Let me give you a real example. A friend of mine spent 6 months chasing a woman who always said she was busy. She'd decline plans, but then randomly comment on his Instagram posts. Every time he tried to let go, she'd drop a small breadcrumb miss, talking to you, or we should catch up soon. He took the bait every time. 6 months later, nothing had changed. No dates, no intimacy, no real investment, just crumbs. When he finally cut her off cold, she stopped reaching out entirely. That's when he realized the truth: she never wanted him. She just wanted the attention, and he had given her half a year of his life for free. The question you need to ask yourself is simple: how much of your time has been stolen by women who never said yes, but also never said no? How many of your nights have been wasted waiting for replies that never came? And more importantly, how much longer are you willing to live in limbo? The moment you start valuing yourself more than the scraps they offer, you'll stop feeding into these games. You'll stop being the backup plan, the ego boost, the maybe someday. And you'll start being the man who only accepts full presence, full effort, full desire. Have you ever been caught in that cycle of breadcrumbs, a text here, a call there, but nothing real? How long did it take you to see through it? And when you finally pulled away, what did you discover about her true interest? There's another way women say no without saying it, and it's far more subtle than breadcrumbs. It's through withdrawal, not an argument, not a breakup speech, not even a clear declaration. Just a slow pulling away. Her energy recedes, her warmth cools, her attention fades. One day she's texting you eagerly, the next she's too busy to reply. She used to lean in during conversations, now she sits back, arms crossed, eyes drifting, and you can feel it. But because she hasn't said the words, you convince yourself it's temporary, that if you just try harder, she'll return to the way she was before. This is one of the most powerful emotional manipulations a woman can unconsciously or consciously use. Withdrawal isn't just about absence, it's about control. The silence isn't empty, it's heavy. It makes you question yourself. What did I do wrong? Was it something I said? Should I text again? Should I plan something bigger to win her back? Suddenly, you're the one chasing. You're the one trying to solve a puzzle she designed by simply doing nothing. And that's the trap. She doesn't have to lift a finger to make you move mountains. The psychology is simple. Humans crave resolution. When someone pulls away without explanation, your mind becomes obsessed with filling in the blanks. You replay conversations, analyze emojis, dissect tone. You're no longer living freely. You're orbiting her absence. That's why withdrawal is so effective. It uses your own need for certainty against you. And if you don't recognize it, you'll fall into the pattern of overinvestment, throwing more attention, more effort, more gifts, more emotional energy into someone who has already chosen distance. Here's where you must be brutally honest with yourself. A woman's withdrawal is almost never accidental. People make time for what matters. If she was into you, you'd know. If she's fading, it's because her interest is fading. The worst thing you can do is fight it. When you chase someone pulling away, you confirm her decision. You reinforce that she's the prize, that you're desperate, that your value is lower. Every unanswered text you send drops your worth further. Every time you ask, "Are you okay?" when she's ignoring you, you surrender another piece of power. So how do you flip the script? You respond to withdrawal with indifference, not escalation. The moment you feel her energy fading, you don't chase, you match her pace. If she takes 2 days to reply, you take 2 days. If she stops calling, you stop calling. If she fades into silence, you let the silence stand. You don't beg for clarity, you don't demand explanations. You let her reveal her truth through her actions. And here's the paradox: when you stop chasing, one of two things happens. Either she disappears completely, which means she was never truly invested, or she comes back stronger because she realizes she can't control you with absence. There's a reason indifference is terrifying to manipulative people. It shows them they don't own you. It reveals that their silence has no power over you. And that's when the dynamic shifts. You're no longer the man scrambling for scraps of her attention. You're the man who doesn't need her at all. That's where your strength lies, not in forcing her to stay, but in being unshaken if she leaves. I've seen men waste years in relationships built on withdrawal. One day she's warm, the next she's cold, and he spends his life trying to thaw her out. He convinces himself she's just stressed, just busy, just not herself lately. But the truth is brutal. She's saying no with every ounce of her indifference. And because he can't face it, he becomes a permanent beggar in his own relationship. That's not love. That's enslavement. You need to remember this law: interest shows itself. Disinterest hides itself. If she's interested, you'll feel her pull you closer. If she's not, you'll feel her drift away. Your job is not to drag her back. Your job is to recognize the drift as the message. Her silence is the no. Her coldness is the rejection. The sooner you accept that, the sooner you free yourself from chasing ghosts. The shift you need is this: stop trying to fix what her withdrawal reveals. It's not a problem to solve, it's an answer to accept. And once you internalize that, you'll never beg for attention again. You'll never lose nights refreshing your phone. You'll never feel the ache of being slowly erased while still standing there, pretending it's fine. You'll reclaim your dignity in silence, because the man who doesn't chase a fading woman is the man who keeps his crown. So tell me, have you ever felt that slow withdrawal, where she didn't say no, but her energy screamed it? How did you respond? Did you chase, or did you pull back? And looking back now, what did that choice cost you? There's another layer even deeper than withdrawal or breadcrumbs. It's when she doesn't reject you with words, or even with silence, but with inconsistency. This is the realm of the mixed signal. One day she's warm, affectionate, laughing at your jokes, even touching your arm. The next day she's cold, distracted, distant. She keeps you suspended in a loop where you can never quite relax. You feel like you're always trying to get back to the good day, and you tell yourself if you just do the right thing, she'll stay in that warm mode forever. But here's the hard truth: the inconsistency is the rejection. It's her way of saying no without losing you completely. Think of it like a slot machine. You pull the lever and sometimes you get nothing. Sometimes you get a little win. And every once in a while, the lights flash and the bells ring. That rare payout keeps you hooked. You chase it because your brain convinces you the big win is just around the corner. Women who use inconsistency consciously or unconsciously create that same effect in men. You remember the one amazing date, the one night she kissed you back, the one morning she seemed excited, and that memory keeps you tolerating the dozens of dull, cold, or dismissive moments. You're not dating her, you're gambling for her. And this is where men lose years of their lives, because inconsistency keeps hope alive. You convince yourself it's stress, or her mood, or timing, or some external factor. You say, she's not always like this. And that's exactly how the trap works. You focus on her highs while ignoring the lows. You don't realize the lows are the baseline and the highs are the bait. Her inconsistency isn't an accident. It's either a lack of real interest, or it's a way to keep you invested without ever fully committing. Here's the cost of staying in that loop. You lose your center. You become reactive instead of grounded. Your confidence starts to depend on her mood. If she's warm, you feel alive. If she's cold, you feel empty. You stop being a man of principle and become a man of reaction. She becomes the weather, and you become the weather vane, spinning whichever way she turns. That's how a woman's subtle no destroys men, not by pushing them out, but by keeping them inside a cage of false hope. Now, let's talk strategy. The only way to break out of inconsistency is to stop rewarding it. Most men do the opposite. When she's cold, they chase harder. When she's warm, they overgive. This teaches her that she doesn't need to be consistent. You'll always do the work, regardless of her effort. But when you refuse to play the game, something shifts. If she's inconsistent, you treat her as inconsistent. That means you don't lock your emotions on her highs, and you don't scramble during her lows. You remain steady, centered, unaffected. She becomes the one who has to choose step up consistently or fade out completely. The discipline here is brutal but necessary. You must stop asking yourself how to win her back on cold days. Instead, you must start asking yourself why you're tolerating cold days at all. You must reframe inconsistency not as a puzzle to solve, but as a boundary to enforce. If she can't meet you with steady interest, then she doesn't meet you at all. And that's when you free yourself. You're no longer chasing the jackpot. You're walking away from the machine entirely. Let me make this practical. Imagine you text her on Monday. She replies fast and flirty on Tuesday. You text again and she ignores you until Thursday with a dry lol. Old, you would panic, try to reignite her, send more texts, make more plans. The new you does nothing. You don't chase the inconsistency. You mirror her coldness with distance. You show her that her silence doesn't control you. That's when the truth comes out. If she was only playing, she'll disappear when you stop feeding the game. If she truly wants you, she'll step up to consistency because she'll see you won't accept less. Understand this, a man's strength is measured by what he refuses to tolerate. And inconsistent women thrive on men who can't walk away. The second you prove you're not one of them, everything changes. Either she rises to meet your standard, or she vanishes. Both outcomes are wins. Because what you gain is your freedom. Freedom from guessing, waiting, doubting. Freedom from living in someone else's roller coaster. Freedom to stand in your own clarity, your own direction, your own power. So let me ask you directly, have you ever been strung along by inconsistency, those hot and cold swings that kept you addicted? How did you respond when she pulled away right after pulling you close? And if you're honest, how much of your self-worth did you sacrifice just to stay on her ride? There's one final form of rejection you must learn to see: the quiet tolerance. This is when she doesn't pull away, doesn't vanish, doesn't even throw mixed signals. Instead, she stays around, but flat. She laughs politely. She answers your questions. She shows up when it's convenient, but there's no spark, no real desire. She's not saying no outright, but she's not giving you a yes either. You feel it in her body language, in the way her eyes drift when you talk, in how she accepts your presence without ever seeking it. And because she doesn't reject you, you convince yourself she's just shy, just taking her time, just waiting for the right moment. But deep down, you know the truth. Her tolerance is her way of saying no without the conflict. This is dangerous because it feels comfortable. It doesn't sting like outright rejection. You can convince yourself you're making progress, that she just needs more time to open up. Meanwhile, you're building a relationship entirely on your effort. You plan the dates, you initiate the calls, you carry the conversations. She doesn't resist, but she doesn't reciprocate. It's like pouring water into a glass with no bottom. No matter how much you give, it never fills. And one day, you wake up realizing you've been in something that was never real to begin with. The psychology of tolerance is rooted in passivity. Many women don't want to be harsh. They don't want to hurt your feelings. So they allow your presence as long as it benefits them or doesn't cost them much. Maybe you pay for dinners. Maybe you drive her places. Maybe you offer emotional comfort when she's lonely. She doesn't say no because your effort is convenient. But convenience is not attraction. If she's not actively choosing you, she's already rejected you. She's just too polite to say it out loud. You need to recognize the cues of tolerance. Her body is present, but her mind is elsewhere. She doesn't ask you questions about your life. She doesn't initiate contact. She never creates opportunities to see you. She only responds when you do. She gives you a small smile instead of genuine laughter. She says thanks instead of I missed you. These small details matter. They are the unspoken no. And if you ignore them, you'll waste months or years stuck in a dead zone, thinking you're in a relationship when in reality, you're just filling space in her life until someone else arrives. So what's the strategy? The answer is ruthless clarity. Stop mistaking tolerance for interest. If she's not giving energy back, if she's not choosing you with effort, you treat her presence as absence. You stop overfeeding a dead flame. You pull back and you watch. If she truly wants you, your absence will awaken her effort. If she doesn't, she'll quietly let the connection fade. And that's your gift. Because the worst fate for a man isn't being rejected, it's being tolerated. Rejection hurts for a moment. Tolerance drains you for years. This is where you must build your standard. The standard that says, if she's not enthusiastically in, she's already out. You do not settle for lukewarm. You do not beg for scraps. You do not try to warm up someone who has chosen indifference. You claim your dignity by walking away from half interest. Because the man who refuses tolerance becomes the man who commands respect. You're no longer the option she entertains when she's bored. You're the man who demands presence or nothing at all. And here's the deeper shift once you internalize all these subtle no's, the breadcrumbs, the withdrawal, the inconsistency, the quiet tolerance. You stop fearing rejection entirely. You start seeing rejection not as a wound, but as a filter. It reveals who's not for you, so you can move faster toward who is. You stop wasting energy trying to resuscitate dead interest. You stop begging for clarity from people who've already shown you the truth in silence. You start living with your eyes open, your boundaries sharp, and your standards intact. And that's when dating stops feeling like a battlefield where you're always losing ground. It becomes a place where you move with power, with choice, with certainty. Because at the end of the day, she doesn't need to say no. She's already said it in 100 ways. The question is whether you're man enough to hear it, to see the silence as rejection, the distance as rejection, the inconsistency as rejection, the flat tolerance as rejection, to accept it without fear, without chasing, without bargaining, and to walk away with your pride unshaken. She didn't break you. She revealed what you were too afraid to protect.